Hi, I'm Jill from June Taylor with another innovative solution. Did you ever want to join your quilt blocks that are made Quilt As You Go? Now we have a perfect way to do that with our Sash and a Dash. It's pre-sewn sashing. It's sold by the yard in 7 colors with matching binding. Open the casing and nest your quilt block inside the casing. And then we're just going to run a top stitch down the edge. Take your next block, open the casing, and just do the same thing. To join rows, we're going to do the same thing, only we're going to run our Sash and a Dash across the row. You can run a beautiful embroidery stitch down here to embellish Sash and a Dash, or you can even put a strip of fabric down here. Here's an example where we added a fabric strip by folding under raw edges and top stitching over Sash and a Dash. And if you like to make t-shirt quilts, go ahead and quilt your blocks and then join them with Sash and a Dash. Get ready for fall with an AccuQuilt block on board or bob die that's really something to quack about. The Go Duck Creek Puzzle 10-inch finished die. This fun classic block is a great twist on a square in a square design that presents a fresh, modern look. The Go Duck Creek Puzzle die is designed to cut an entire 4-color block in just one pass through any Go fabric cutter, including the Go Me. Don't puzzle over joining up these perfect points. The screen printed letters and specialized dog ears make this complicated looking block simple to cut and easy to sew together. Combine it with other 10-inch bob dies or Go Cube sets for even more design possibilities. Let your imagination soar as you plan project after project like throw quilts, table runners, wall hangings, and more. There's no tricky puzzle to solve because this die is from AccuQuilt, where we help you cut time so you can quilt more. In today's show, we're going to show you how to cut and sew binding using our 2 new dies. Hey, welcome to AccuQuilt Live. I'm Pam Heller, AccuQuilt's cutting expert. Thanks for joining us today. Chris is in the house. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. It is a cold and rainy Seattle day today in Omaha, Nebraska. How's it there?
It's a cold and rainy Portland day.
As it should be. Good.
Yep.
All right, what are you working on, my friend? Because you are so busy these days.
So busy. I just finished up a project for AccuQuilt for a super secret upcoming die. So that project I told you about while we were in festival, I got it finished.
Oh, I'm proud of you. Good job. Because I feel
It's
like
on
it
its
was
way
due.
back to Omaha now.
I feel like it was due on
So,
Monday.
It was a little past due, but
Lauren
it's
doesn't
done.
care. She'll
And
be
then
nice.
I just need to clean up my space and get reorganized so I can finish up some of these projects.
And because next week, I am so excited about next week. Next week, Chris is taking over AccuQuilt Live. And I'm
Yes.
going to be the person in the box. I already have it planned out. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to have my laptop. I'm going to have just a T-shirt, a Go shirt on. And I'm just going to answer questions. Because what are you going to show us how to do next week?
Next week, I'll be making a trucker hat live, so you all can see the steps to do it.
Yes, when we were at festival, Chris was kind enough to take me and show me how to do it, and I said, great, on Wednesday's show you can show everyone how to do it. So, all right, so people are watching from some fun places. Regina's watching from the Twin Cities, and Maria's watching from Fredericksburg. Thanks for watching with us today. All right, here's the photo of the day. Oh, question marks, question marks. Because the question of the day is, how many of your quilts just need binding to be done? Chris, how many do you have?
I have 0 at the moment.
I have 0 at the moment as well. But after today's show, I'm taking a quilt to the quilter, and then they will need binding, right? Yeah.
They sure will.
How many quilts do you have that need to be quilted?
That's a different question. I have 1, 2, I think I have 2 finished quilt tops that need to be quilted.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the question of the day, put it in the comments section. We want to know. I think the lovely Erica has 1 quilt to be quilted, and that would be her Storm at Sea that we did for the quilt along. All right. Today, since yesterday we launched not 1 but 2 dies, today I'm going to give away one of our Go Flange binding dies and one of our Go Scrappy binding dies. So be sure and register for future events on the AccuQuilt event page for your chance to win. Chris is going to announce the winners throughout our show because we have 2 today. All right, let's take a look. Now, I have to tell you, when I first started at AccuQuilt 12 years ago, I hounded the Gibney and said, listen, we need a flange binding die. Because flange binding is one of my favorite ways to make binding. So this is on a 6x24 die board. It's going to fit through all of our Go cutters, including that Go Me. And the die has sections of 1 3/4 down here, and then 2 sections of 1 1/2. And the reason we added 2 sections of 1 1/2 is some of you like to make binding out of 1 1/2 inch strips. So we added some extra bindings. And Chris, was this one of the dies you helped design, or is it the other one?
No, the scrappy binding I helped with.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to lay it this way. So right here is the section of 1 3/4. Oh, I'm going to show you a sample of flange binding. Because this is my Storm at Sea, Erica. You notice it's quilted and bound. No pressure there. Okay. Boy, I'm going to pay for that later because she's coming to have lunch with me. Okay, so look right here. See this little strip of orange? That is the flange. So this is actually the wider of the two pieces. It is the 1 3/4 inch piece. And then the black here is the 1.5. And so I'm going to open this up so you can see. First of all, look, it has spider webs on it as the quilting. I love it. So what you're going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it, we're going to sew it flange down to the back and then flip it over to the front, and then we're just going to stitch in the ditch. Super cool. Super cool. Okay? So this is probably for me the easiest way to sew binding, because then I don't have, like Jill and our team and Erica, they like to hand bind quilts. I am not a hand binder. Chris, are you a hand binder?
Not anymore. No.
Because there is a die for that. All right. So what I've done is I'm going to cut a section. I got to make sure I measured these here. I just cut with the fabric strips, and I'm just going to cut one section of 1.5. Let's do this the right way. Okay, and I always cut off my selvage because you're going to do it anyway. And then one section of this 1 3/4. So I just rough cut 2 inches and 2 1/4 inches, just 1/4 of an inch on either side. But you don't really have to rough cut it. You could just lay your scraps down. You could just lay your pieces down. I just did it so it looks pretty. Okay, there we go, because we're all into that holiday theme now. All right, so I'm going to put a mat on top because nothing happens without a mat. And we're going to use our Go Big today. You can always use any of our cutters. And listen, if you do not have a Go Big die catcher, which is right here, you need to throw one in your cart today. They were out of stock for a little bit, but now they are totally back in stock. And it's going to allow you to just catch that die when it comes to the other side. It's meant to hold like your power cord and your brick. Let me show you. And Greg, thank you, Greg. See right here, it just comes right off. Inside, you can store your power cord and your brick. I find that sometimes at home, my little power cord gets tangled. All right, so now I'm going to slide, don't lift. Okay, and now I have perfect pieces. All right, so let me show you how we're going to sew these together. I just had this terrible thought that maybe I sewed them the same size. I did not. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put right sides together like you always do. Okay, and we're going to come along here and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. All right, and while I do this, Chris, tell us how many quilts they have to be bound. Wait, before we start, we should guess, what do you think the most quilts are going to be? Like, how many quilts do they have to bind?
12.
Okay, I'm going to say 7. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Let's
so Chris,
see.
go ahead. And Greg's right here, and I'm going to sew, and you can talk.
All right. We have actually several with 0. So we have Martha and Gwen both saying that they have no quilts that need to be bound.
Good job.
Margaret only has 1.
Okay.
Let's see. Karen has 2. April has 1. Terry also has 1.
I'm
Robin
really
with another
surprised
0.
that it's just 1 and 2. That's great.
Joyce says, too many to count.
Oh.
I feel it's either you have none or you have a huge stack.
Oh, yeah. One time, okay, binding is truly the bane of my existence. And not too long ago, I probably had a half a dozen projects that all they needed was binding. It made me so angry. And so what I did was, one weekend, I just sat and bound quilts. And it
Oh,
was
nice.
fabulous. Okay.
Jeannie
Okay, and if you
says-
have questions, not only can we know how many quilts you need to be bound, but we can answer your questions. All right, hold on here. I'm going to grab some scissors.
Jean commented and said she likes binding.
Lots of people do. Do you like binding?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I don't hate it. I think once I kind of figured it out, it became less intimidating, and now it's just part of the process. I like it for the fact that it's the last step, which means that quilt is done, because I label my quilt at the same time that I bind it.
Yes,
So
I was
there's
going to say, quilters, you need to be labeling your quilts.
Yeah, I do a fun corner label, so there's 0 hand stitching involved to label my quilts.
Oh, yes.
Once it's bound, it's done.
And do you have the same label? Does it say
I have
Rose City Originals, or what does it say?
It sure does. So these are the labels I put on my quilts. So it's got my signature, and then I just write in the details. And
Look
then
at how cool that is.
Folded in half and sewn into the corner.
That's super cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
I also have some generic ones on my website if you want to label your own quilts the same way.
Oh, listen, I'm going to order some for Erica for Christmas. We should totally be doing that. Okay. And how can we find you on your website?
It is rosecityoriginals.com.
Oh, look at you. And Rose City because he lives in Portland.
Right. And I kept them really simple. On the other ones, there's a place for the quilt name, when you finished it, and your name.
Gosh,
so you
I
can
have
just
to
write
name
it in there.
Oh, I guess the pattern
You don't
name.
have to.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to make it super complicated because I feel like that kind of deters people from labeling their quilts because I don't know what to write. I don't have a story behind it. I don't have it for a specific person. So I kept it super simple. It also has washing instructions on it. Should you give it away, the recipient will know how to care for your quilt.
And did you use an indelible marker?
Oh, they're professionally printed. I use Pentel. What is it? I just found these because...
Okay, let's give whoever a plug. Oh, yeah, Pentel.
Pentel gel roller for fabric.
Okay.
A follower told me about them, and I really like it. It writes super smooth, and it's permanent. Very good.
Listen, what a great stocking stuffer. Get some labels, get a binding die, get some labels and a pen, and give it to Erica.
And they're set. There you go.
That's what I'm going to do. All right. Okay, I am pressing towards the smaller side. Normally, we just press things in half, but flange is a little different. And you really want to give it a good press.
Yep.
Take your time.
That smaller side on the finished binding is actually going to be what shows the most.
Right. Right. So you want it to look pretty.
Yeah.
I know. I always think it's backwards. I always think the wider side is going to be the side that shows the most. But the wider side is just the flange.
Yep.
Okay. Don't tell Erica what I'm getting her for Christmas.
I won't.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now that I've pressed towards the small side, now I'm going to fold it in half and match the raw edges. And see, look, there's that little piece of flange color. And that's what you want to see. You just want to see that tiny little piece of flange. Okay. Here we go. All right, so Chris, while I'm ironing, tell us how many quilts people have.
Sure. Valaine and Pat both have 0.
Gosh, I am so proud of you, quilters. Okay.
Karen has 4 pillow tops.
Oh, okay. Finished. I do not make pillows or wall hangings or little things. If I'm going to sew, I'm going to make a quilt. Erica makes all sorts of fun little wall hangings. We have this. I kind of have a beef with her because she hangs them behind her when we have meetings, and after a while, I get bored of looking at them, so I make her change them.
That's funny.
And she does, because she's a good egg. But yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Kim and Terry both have 1. And
Wow.
Joyce says, none. I love binding. Very good. That's
Look
really
at you
good.
guys, loving binding. I'm proud of you. Okay. Now that I have ironed this, I'm going to move the iron out of the way, and I'm going to get some pins, or maybe some clippies. Oh, pins are here. I'll get pins. Okay. All right. So here is our flange binding, and doesn't it look pretty?
It does. Very festive.
Mm-hmm. And you really do want contrasting colors. Like mine is orange and black, okay? You don't necessarily want to have it like 2 shades of anything. Okay, now, I want everybody to take a breath. This show, like all of our live shows, are recorded, so you can go back and watch it on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, our website, okay? Here is my quilt block, okay? It's just to show you how we're gonna do this, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start, don't worry about the ends. Just do your ends like you normally do, depending on how you finish your binding, okay? I'm gonna start here, and you want the flange side down, okay?
And are you attaching to the front or the back of the quilt?
You're attaching, this is the back. I should have written that on there, because I made them the same. But yes, you want it to go to the back of the quilt. That was a good question, Chris, thank you. Okay? And I do find that pinning helps, okay? And I'm gonna sew this right here along this way, 1/4 inch, and just like I normally do, I'm gonna stop at 1/4 inch. And if you want to, oh my gosh, Kenyon cleaned out this closet, or this drawer, so it's not a raccoon drawer anymore. It doesn't make all sorts of noises when I'm there. So if you want to, you can mark that 1/4 inch from the edge, so you know when to stop it, okay? All right, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna turn it, and we're gonna stitch probably down to here, and then I'm gonna show you how to sew that corner, because that's the thing, right, Chris? Everybody wants to know how to sew the corner.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna go here. So while Chris is in the house, tell us how many quilts. I'm just so proud of our quilters for just having 1 or 2.
Yes. Before we get to that, Sheila's asking, isn't the green the flange fabric? Yes.
Yes.
So the green is going to be the little part, like the little flange that you see from the front. So we want just the little part facing the back of the quilt.
Yes.
So
yes.
your non-flange binding
Oh,
and the little
because I told everybody
peekaboo.
to put the flange side down. And
Oh.
what I meant by that was the little flange.
Right.
That is a good
Great
question.
clarification. Yes.
And take your time. I like to watch movies when I bind things and sew things. Earlier I was watching Maverick Top Gun. Okay, so I've stopped it at my 1/4 inch. I'm going to turn it 45 degrees, and I'm just going to stitch right off the side. Okay?
Perfect.
Okay. Now, trust the process. I'm going to come here. See, there's our little piece of flange. I'm going to come right up at 45 and see, since I marked it, look at how straight that is, okay? And then I'm going to come back here and fold it down and make sure it's straight. And I'm going to put a pin on it. Okay? Just pin it right here so it keeps straight. Okay? And then I'm going to continue right here to 1/4 inch. You got to do the fold up and flip thing.
Yes, very important.
You know, Chris, okay, I have to say that I don't know any quilter that quilts the same. I mean, binds the same. Because, like, I bind like the lady who taught me how to quilt.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, don't you think that too?
Yes, there are so many different tips and techniques and ways to do things in quilting.
Right.
That everyone just kind of, you go what works best for you.
Yeah.
There's no hard and fast rules in it.
They're not. They're not. Okay. Okay, so don't mind our tail. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to press it away from the blue, okay? And I'm going to show you what I do when I get to the corner, okay? And I'm going to leave this because inevitably I'm going to show somebody how to do this again, right?
Right.
Okay, here we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is start here, and I'm just going to press away from the blue, okay? And I really find that if I press, Chris, my binding, it seems to do better, don't you think?
Yes, I actually just finished one, and I did not press at this stage or do my normal glue basting, and I noticed a difference.
Oh.
But I was in a hurry, so I just whipped it through. I was like, okay, that was, yeah, not
that
great.
was silly.
You're right.
Okay. Okay, now watch this. So I'm going to fold it here. Now this is now the front. Here's my back, okay? Fold it here towards the front. And I'm going to press it again. And I'm going to come all the way to this corner. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. And Chris, you glue-based. I've never in my life done that. I might try that today.
It makes a big difference, I have found. I've done just regular Elmer's glue. I've used the June Taylor glue stick, which was pretty handy. I've also used Steam-A-Seam fusible tape.
Oh.
And that's probably my favorite because it's the least messy.
Okay.
But
okay, so now look. We pressed here. We have a really good 45-inch. Okay?
45-degree angle.
45-degree angle. What did I say? 45-inch?
Inch, yeah.
We don't have that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here, okay, and just going to use a little pin. I don't know, Chris, maybe I should use a glue stick. Ooh, let's try that. We have one, right, Kenyon?
There should be one.
Oh, yeah, here. In the non-raccoon drawer. Okay, so walk this through. Do you do it just right here, Chris?
I do it on the back side of the binding so I don't get too much on the back of the quilt.
Okay. Okay,
and then after you've put it on and like folded it over, make sure to press it because you want that glue to be 100% dry before you sew it.
Oh, yeah, that is a good point. Okay, so I've glued it. Now I'm going to press it. Never, ever use steam. I never, ever do. Now, I'm going to come right here on the back side of this binding, right?
Yep.
And then I'm going to come right here and see, look at how good that corner is.
Perfect.
That's what you want. You want good corners on your quilts. Quilters, if you don't have good corners on your binding, stop, take it out, and fix it. Okay? Because you've done all the hard work. Okay, look at that. Okay. Okay,
and look,
Chris,
it's staying in place.
I might use glue sticks going forward. See, this is why we have people come hang out with us. Okay, so now I'm just going to stitch in the ditch. And when I get to that corner, I'm going to stop. Oh, there was a pin there.
Oh.
Don't tell anybody.
Well, while you're stitching that, because you're almost to the corner, we have a couple more people. Jean, Johnny, Jane, and Kim all have 0 quilts. Oh, and Virginia.
Quilters! Chris and I are so
many with
proud.
0.
Okay, I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to catch that one little edge of the green. I'm going to lift up my presser foot. I'm going to cut my thread here. Okay. Come back down, and it's going to set right there, and we're going to stitch right there in the ditch. I'm just so proud of all these people that have none and one. Even if you have 2.
I am too.
Even if you have 2, that means you're ready for the holidays. Okay. So
So
look
we've
at,
got a couple. Oh, go
we're
ahead.
going to show this real quick and then we'll answer questions. So see how it came perfectly there to that corner? You just want to come, bring it down, turn it, and continue stitching.
Looks so good.
Super slick. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
A couple questions coming in about gluing.
Go for it, Chris.
So, does it matter what glue you use, and do you have a special kind of glue stick? So, you want to use something that's washable.
Yes.
So, the June Taylor fabric glue stick is washable. So, after
Yes.
the first wash, all of the glue is gone. So, if you accidentally get some on your backing, it's gone. If there's any kind of crunchiness from your glue, that's all gonna wash away. You can also use just regular Elmer's school glue,
Okay.
but that can get a little messy. You can get a fine point tip, but then you got to squeeze the bottle. The glue stick's a lot easier.
I feel like glue stick is the way to go.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to do that. Huh. Okay, what other questions do we have?
Would it be difficult to do flange binding in flannel?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Do you not? I
think
feel
so?
like flannel is so much thicker.
It might depend on the flannel. Because I know
Oh,
some
sure.
flannel is still kind of thin, but some is like thick.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And do the same process, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And Gail is asking if we can see the back of the binding,
Yes.
what the backside looks like.
Yes.
So with this method, there is going to be like a visible stitching line.
See right here?
So I would say,
Oh, here, I'll show you on mine. Hold on. I'll show you on mine. Keep talking,
Okay.
Chris. Sorry.
I would say swap your bobbin to match your backing fabric.
Yep. Which is what I did. Look at that string. Hold on. That was a quilting string. So you can see here where that stitch came from the front. But it's okay because it's part of the spider webby. Like on the
Right.
blue, it doesn't show at all. So I guess it just
Right.
depends on what your backing is.
Yep.
Okay.
And then on that same topic, where did it go? Someone was asking, how far off the back edge do you sew? So I think how far over do you fold it?
Oh, yeah. So I folded it all the way over. So let me measure. Here, I can tell you. We have rulers. So that from the stitch line, it's just 1/4 inch. So on the
So
back,
1/4
this,
inch. Okay. Just your seam allowance.
yeah, just your seam allowance. And
And
then
then you
we
stitch in
folded
the
it to the
ditch.
front. Oh, do you want to know how big it is on the front? It is a 1/2 inch.
Half inch.
Yeah,
And that's to the stitching line or the edge of the flange?
to the edge of the flange.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, no, to the stitching line right here.
Oh, the stitching line. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
so you just stitch in the ditch between the two fabrics. So it also hides your stitches on the front.
And it looks fabulous. And I literally bound this quilt in 30 minutes. Like cut
That's
my flange
impressive.
binding, did all the things. Now I do want to give you a little pro tip here. Ooh, as I knock stuff over on the set. Sorry, guys. All right. So when you sew your pieces together, I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to tell you to sew all your green together and all your red together, okay? And then we're going to use, oh, here, I'm going to show you this super slick trick. Oh, I have some fabric right here. Hold on. I'm going to show you how to miter your corners, okay? So all the red and all the green together, miter your corners so they're going to be at an angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you want to do is when you are, then you're going to sew the red to the green like this, and you want to offset those seams. Press them open, offset them. And the reason is if you try to line them up, first of all, it's never going to line up, and second of all, it's going to make so much bulk. So
Right.
if you were doing 2 of these, you would just offset the seams, okay? Just make sure when you're sewing the red and the green together, the seams that you bind the, however long your strip is, are offset. Does that make sense? Did I explain that, Chris?
You did.
Okay.
And you also went over that on yesterday's show for the lunch. So that is recorded and available on AccuQuilt's website and on YouTube.
There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to miter corners. So this is my piece of fabric. This is my good grunge, boy. And what I need is, boy, I'm going to cut this down here. Hold on one sec. I'm not. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to cut it. And the reason is we don't usually make binding that is, I don't know, however wide this is, 4.5 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to just rough cut this. It's not going to be straight because I didn't use dye, but the concept is here. Okay. 2.5 inches. Okay. All right. Actually, I'm going to use the smaller one. Okay, so when you miter your corners for binding, you want that great 45-degree line. So here is our pro tip, okay? What you need is a half square triangle that is bigger than your strip. So this is like a 1.5 inch strip, and this is a 4.5 inch half square triangle. The tip is you want all of your fabric facing up.
Very important.
Very important. Otherwise, it's backwards and it doesn't work. And you can always cut 6 layers of cotton with our Go dyes, but you could cut flannel. How many layers of flannel, Chris?
4,
Yeah,
2.
no, 4 is good. 4
Oh, it is
works.
4? Okay.
Yeah. 4, but you can get cork and minky and also leather. So what we've done is we've laid it here, and we want to make sure the end is right here where this 45-degree angle comes. Now, our dies cut where there's fabric and a mat. So if I put my mat here, it's just going to cut straight right off here. So I'm going to offset my mat so it doesn't cut it off. And I'm going to take it to my cutter. Okay. I'm going to give it a little hold. Okay. There. Okay, let me show you what it did. So now what it did, oh, I have a string, hold on. Okay, so now what it's done is it's cut the ends perfectly at 45 degrees. So now I can put right sides together, give it a stitch, so right there at 1/4 inch, and then when it comes together, your strip is going to be perfect. Okay, and this is the seam we talked about. If you're going to sew this together, make sure that you press it open, and that's what you offset. So you can use this every time to miter your corners. You just need a half square triangle bigger than your strip.
Yep.
Okay.
Got a couple questions.
Yes.
Real quick. Could you add prairie points with the flange binding?
I have never done that. Do you think we could, Chris?
Yes, you should be able to, because you would just put them in and then fold the binding on top and stitch it down.
So for sure I would use a glue stick there and glue stick my prairie points in there.
Yes. You can also do like rickrack or other trim, so you'd have like a triple flange. I don't know. It would look way more complicated, and like it took you forever when it really didn't.
When it didn't. Prairie points is a great idea. We should do a show on that, Chris.
That would be fun. And then Brenda's asking, how do you end the binding?
Oh, okay. So I end my binding differently than most people. So when I'm here at the beginning, this is the beginning. Okay. And Chris, you're going to tell me you do it differently, I'm sure, because Erica does it way different than I do. Okay, when I start my quilt here on the back side, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my fabric down, and I'm going to press out the corner here. I'll show you here. Well, I have to do it here because then it will make sense. Okay. So it's starting here, right? We put that little piece of flange down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to press down. I need to make it smaller. This is the problem. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to press it like this. The problem is, here, I'll show you
You have
here.
too much stitch down.
It is stitched down, but look, I
Yeah.
have some scissors real quick. I can just unstitch it. Because how people finish their quilts, like Erica does this like magic binding thing. I don't know how she does it, but it's wild. She does. It's like a magician. And I tried one time to do it on a quilt, and for 30 minutes I couldn't do it, and then I cried and said, forget it. I'm just going to do it the way I always do it. Okay, so here it is. Before I start, okay, so here's the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this so that there is a corner here, a rectangle. No, a triangle. There we go. And I'm going to try really hard not to burn my fingers. Okay. Okay. So when it gets to this point, once I've stitched it down and I've sewn it over, okay, there's this little, well, now I got to do it. Hold on. So you can see. I should have done that before I even started. Hang on. And then I'm just going to tuck my end in. But Chris, how do you finish your binding?
So I actually go over that in the mini series that is on the AccuQuilt YouTube, but I join the ends together. I'll sew a 45-degree angle, and I have tips on there how to measure it, cut it, sew it, so that when you're all done, you can't tell where like your binding started and stopped because there's just 45-degree angles throughout it.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, we should all follow Chris. Okay. So now see, when I pull it to this side, when I come the other side.
You just like tuck it in?
Yeah, you just tuck it in because you're going to sew it on the side and it's going to just tuck right here. And I try really hard to line up that flange.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so
that.
Really, you can treat this like ending it any way you would normal non-flange binding.
Right. However
Whatever
you finish
method
your
you
non,
like.
however you finish your binding is how you need to finish it. So let's see if I can find it on my quilt, because that was a good question. Here, hold on. Oh, wouldn't that be cool if I couldn't find it? Because that means I did it exactly right. Right?
Well, while you're looking, we have a lot of questions.
Okay, so here's where I came. Can we get really close, Kenyon? So here's my little 45-degree, and I just brought it right up here to the flange and met them and continued stitching down.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, answer our questions.
We have a lot of questions.
I bet we
What
do.
are prairie points, and is there a die for that?
So prairie points are usually 4-inch squares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there is a 4-inch strip die that you can cut 4 inches, turn them at 90 degrees and cut 4-inch squares and then fold them in half and fold them in half again, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so prairie points they're just decorative. They're like little flappy triangles.
Yeah.
And it's how you fold the square and then you just sew it into your binding and it just gives like a little zigzag, just some fun to add to your quilt.
Just some fun. And you can make prairie points any size you want.
Yes.
Typically they're 4 inches, but you can make them 3 inches and cut them cut them out of a 3-inch strip die, fold them in half, fold them in quarters. And it's super cool. We should do a video. I will write that down. Okay.
All right. We'll do an AccuQuilt live for prairie points.
Let's do it. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we announce our winner of our flange binding die?
wouldn't the ending in Pam's version leave an opening as it isn't sewn down like you would when connecting strips to make binding?
Yeah, and so that is really the answer, yes. And I usually just go in and just give it a few stitches to close it.
Okay.
Or
Easy
sometimes I
peasy.
just leave it open, who cares? Right? But we should all go
That
to
works.
Chris's video. Now I'm going to go home and watch Chris and see how he does it, because Erica has tried to teach me how to do it. So, all right, Chris, do you want to announce the winner of today's Go Flange binding die?
Yes. Drum roll, please. The winner of the flange binding die is Nancy B. from Tucson, Arizona.
Congratulations. Okay. Now, let's talk about our scrappy binding. Because, Chris, I didn't know you were the designer of this. This is super cool.
Yep,
Okay.
so it's not like a licensed design like my trucker hat, but I did work with the AccuQuilt team to make this die a reality, because I love scrappy binding.
I do too. I do too. Okay, so here is the scrappy binding die. It's on a 6x24 die board. It's going to fit through all of our cutters, including that Go Me. Did I lose everybody? Did I do it wrong?
Oh.
Oh,
Nope.
good. I'm sorry, my words moved. Okay.
Oh.
So it has 4 sections, Chris, and tell us the sizes of them.
Yep. So they end at 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, and 12 inches.
6, 8,
Yep.
10, and 12.
Yes.
Okay. This is what we call a directional die. So you
Very
want,
important.
that is really important. If you go back and forth, half your piece is going to be wrong, and you're going to be cranky about that. All right, so this is a block that I have a quilt that is finished, that once I sew the setting triangles to the side of this was Flying Fish, right?
Yes.
Amanda
Yep.
Harward? Yeah, she did this. So I went home and made it out of Grange. I was super excited about it. And I wanted to do scrappy binding on it because it comes with 4 different colors besides the background white. So what I've done is, if you measure from here to here, it's 5 inches. I just rough cut 5.5-inch strips, and then I subcut them to 21.5. Okay? Because that's the length. Because you can't go back and forth, but you can do 6 layers. And you don't have to cut all of them. Like if you just wanted these 2 sizes, we're just gonna, you could just cut them here, all right? But the cool thing about this is it cuts off the dog ears,
Yes.
okay, which is important, okay? So I'm gonna lay my fabric here, and I'm really excited about this because I need binding for this quilt, and I wanted to do it scrappy, and I thought, oh, look at that, how it worked. Hold on here, I'm looking for something in the other drawer. I don't know where it went. It's okay. All right, so now I'm gonna put a 6x24 cutting mat on it. We're gonna use our Go Big, but again, it's built for all of our cutters, including that Go Me. Get you a die catcher. All right, here we go.
While that's cutting, we have a question from Brenda. Could you
Okay.
use this die to make the binding angled ends to sew together? You could, but you would have to make sure, if you're cutting your strips at 2.5 inches, that they're perfectly lined up. So normally we use that half square triangle that's larger so that you only have to worry about one edge.
Yes, amen. Yeah. All right, give it some love. Slide, don't lift. Okay, and now look at this. Chris, I am super excited about it. I'm even happier knowing that you designed it. Okay, now, so notice, thank you, Amanda Harward, Larkspur Quilts, for her inspiration there. Okay, so look. See, it's cut off all the little dog ears. Okay, now, when I am doing this, Chris knows the answer to this. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to necessarily sew, I don't want to make it a pattern. Okay.
Right.
So
You
I'm
want it
going
to
to
look
sew
scrappy.
different colors, and then I'm going to sew different lengths together. I don't want to make it a pattern. But if you just had these 4 sections, because quilters are going to ask this, these 4 pieces sewn together, what does it finish to?
It's about 36 inches
Okay.
worth of binding.
Excellent. So do a little math in your head, how many inches you need, okay? Now, because Chris designed it so that the dog ears are cut off, look at how I can just lay this right here. So from here to here, that's a perfect 1/4 inch seam.
Yes.
Okay? And Chris, do you have any other pro tips on this?
So I purposely designed them, or like I worked with the team to design them to end at that 6, 8, 10, and 12. So they're 2 inches in between them. So you can actually stack them up on their long ends and they will fit together. And one of the quilts that I made uses all 4 sizes to then make like a big strippy cross thing.
Oh,
The one with the starry fabric you showed yesterday.
Yes. Okay.
So I like dyes that are versatile. So you can use this for more than just binding. They're just really long parallelograms,
Oh, yeah.
which is one of the shapes in the cube.
Because we woke up one day and said, gosh, I hope there's a parallelogram in the cube. Okay.
Couple questions for this die.
Okay, I'm going to let you answer why so, because I'm super excited about this. Go ahead.
Roxanne asks, does the material need to be cut on the bias before using the die?
No.
If you want bias binding, you can, but I rarely do bias binding.
Yeah.
So this is just cut on grain.
Yeah, cut with the fabric strips.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're laid out so it's a width of fabric cut in half is the perfect size to go on the die board. And you'll want to cut it in half so that you can have both sides face up.
With the fabric, 42 inches cut. Oh, I see what you're saying. I didn't have to trim it. I could have just done that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And then Glenda asks, is this available for the studio?
Ah.
So this is a Go die, but you can use the adapter to use it if you have a studio cutter.
Yes. And for sure, listen, quilters, if you were looking for a gift for yourself for the holidays, we have found 2 of them for you.
Yes.
Because this is what you want to do. Okay, so I'm just sewing these together, and I'm just doing them randomly. Okay, and I just think this is super slick, right? And then we're going to press our seams open. And I'm doing just a variety of sizes, and in a minute I'll stop so you can see how it looks. Okay.
One fun way to make sure you get a good variety, after you've cut all your pieces, jumble them up, put them in a paper bag, and just pull them at random.
Look
That way you
at
don't have to
Chris
think about it.
living on the edge there. Holy smokes. Okay, and I lay them out to make sure I'm sewing them right. They only sew one way.
As long as you've cut them all right side up.
Yeah. Is that what you do, you maniac? You just like throw them in a bag and just pull things out? Holy
Well,
smokes.
I usually don't have a bag, but I have them in a pile off to the side, and I'll just grab whatever's on top.
Okay. You know, I did that one time for, I was making a crazy quilt, and that same concept, where I just had all the pieces already cut, and I just kept reshuffling them. Okay? All right, so hold on here. I need to sew binding, quilters. All right, so now I'm going to sew these 2 pieces together. Okay, and you can pin them if you want. Pinning's probably, do you pin yours, Chris?
No.
Oh, good.
I used to just eyeball them. Like I would put my 2 strips together and kind of eyeball that.
Before
Which
you
I
had
think you
AccuQuilt
mentioned-
and knew that they could cut off the dog ears?
Right, which I think you
Wow.
mentioned you used to do too.
Yeah, we all did. Okay, so look how pretty that is. Okay. All right, so now what you want to do is, now, Chris, tell us how to press it.
So I press all of these seams open.
Yeah.
And that's important because you want to distribute that bulk so that you don't have like bumps in your binding. when you have too much bulk too, it makes your binding skinnier, like in that part that you're sewing on. So it'll be like a wave up your quilt. And especially with scrappy binding, because I mean, that short piece is only 6 inches from edge to edge.
Right.
You're going to have a lot of seams in your binding.
Right.
But that's kind of, the charm of scrappy binding.
Yes. Which we think is fun. Okay.
Yes.
And the cool thing about scrappy binding is that maybe you have more of one color than another, but you don't have enough of both to make a bind, So now you can just cut up all the pieces.
Yes.
Look at this. How fun is this? Okay, and we have, and then we're just going to fold it in half, right, Chris?
Yep. Fold it in half like normal, press it, and then you are ready to attach it to your quilt.
And the lovely Erica has a great tip. She always makes her binding while she's cutting her fabric for her quilt to make sure she has enough fabric for her binding. So it's already cut. And then she winds it on our little spool thing. What's that called, Kenyon? From June Taylor. It's not June Taylor. The spool, I tried to find one.
The binding spool, the little glittery one?
Yes.
I forget who makes it, but they are really handy.
And they're on our website. So while you're getting your 2 binding dies, get your little binding spool. That way you can just roll it up and put it with your project, and then it'll be all ready to go with a capital O and an exclamation point. And I write letters now and put go like that in them. Okay. Okay. Look at that.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So then I would just continue with my little scrappy binding. And I think this is super fun. A great way to use up your scraps. Great way to use up the end of your yardage if you had it. Okay. And Chris is going to announce the next winner of the scrappy binding die.
Yes. First, do you want to do a couple questions?
Oh, yeah. Let's do questions.
Okay. Can you make flange binding with this scrappy die?
I knew somebody was going to ask that. Could you?
So I don't think so, because the strips on the flange are that, 1 3/4 and 1 1/2, and this only cuts at 2 1/2 inches wide.
Okay, but once you sewed this, if you wanted to waste it, see, then you could
you could then run it through.
Yeah, then you could run it through and cut it, and then just have a solid for the 1 3. I would cut this on the 1 1/2.
1 1/2.
And then on the 1 3/4, I'd make it solid. But then you're wasting a good inch of your grunge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good thought. I did think about that.
Pam asks, would you starch to keep it flat?
So we have Starch Savvy from June Taylor. And typically before I cut fabric, I spray it down with some little Starch Savvy. Keeps things.
So your scraps would already be starched?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Ruth is asking, can the Go Flying Fish be made with a 12-inch cube?
It cannot, but thank you for asking. We have a Go Flying Fish die. Check out the pattern. It's by Jen Belknap, and it's super cool because she puts no, not Jen Belknap, Amanda Harward. She puts the blocks on point and uses our 9-inch setting trials because it finishes to 9 inches. Okay.
Awesome.
Do you have other questions?
I think that's it, except for one that just came in asking if we can explain prairie points. So we are going to do a whole Wednesday
Chris and I are going to do a whole show on prairie points because we should for sure do prairie points with like scrappy binding.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Okay, we'll
do
Chris
that.
and I will do it because in a little while we have to figure out what we're doing anyway. We might as well do it on a show.
There you go.
On a Wednesday. Okay.
All right, let's announce our next winner.
Okay.
Drum roll, please. Winner of our Go Scrappy Binding Die is Alma T. from Port Richey, Florida.
Congratulations, Alma. All right, Alma, and who else won?
That was...
I'm going to reach out to you.
I went too far.
Okay. It's okay. I'm going to reach out to you and send me your address so I can do it. Okay, so a couple of things. Be sure and post all of your finished bound projects on all of our social media platforms using hashtag AccuQuiltBuilt so we can find it. Now, Chris, we have tons of great deals on our website, including the November die to try, which is the Duck Creek die. It's available from the AccuQuilt website or from your local retailer until the end of the month or when the die sells out. But quilters, if you do not yet have a Go Trucker hat die, you could order it today. And then next week when I get to sit with my laptop and answer questions, and Chris is going to show you how to put it all together, you could get one in time for next week. And they're super fun, they're super cute. We had all sorts of people at festival that were wearing them, and it was really cool. And then after Wednesday, next Wednesday with Chris, then it is the holiday, it is Thanksgiving. And be sure and check out our special Friday, Black Friday show, which is 12 noon Central Time. All things start at 12 noon Central Time. And then Cyber Monday, 12 noon Central Time. All right, Chris, any last questions before we head out?
I think we have them pretty much covered.
All right, who's helping you answer questions?
Let's see. Today we have Lauren and Ray helping.
Hi, Lauren and Ray. Thanks so much for helping with that. Here in the studio, we have Greg and Chelsea and Kenyon. And of course, Chris is from Portland, Oregon, and he's here. And I'm Pam. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for watching. To learn more about your quilting craft, be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for live events every Tuesday and Wednesday. You can check out the events page on the AccuQuilt website for more details on upcoming shows. And if you're looking for even more inspiration, visit our blog for exclusive tutorials filled with tips and tricks. And remember, at AccuQuilt, we help you cut time so you can quilt more. Was it too much? Be sure to join us for next week's AccuQuilt Live as we make trucker hats for days. Chris is in charge. Hope to see you there.